My name is Aaron Weidenhiller. I am in an operations management group along with Arturo, Landry, and Jasmine. And today I'd like to talk to you about a supplement to the current traditional business model, which we call Bright Farms for a Bright Future. So first off, let me ask you this. Where would you go to buy an engagement ring? Would you go to Walmart or would you choose Zales? I think most people would choose Zales because you would pay that extra money for a little bit better quality. Now, where would you go to get a custom tailored suit? Would you go to H&M or would you probably go to J. Crew? Now, I think most people would choose J. Crew because, again, consumers, when it comes to special things, are willing to pay for extra quality. Now, let me ask you this. Why, as consumers, do we mostly pay for extra quality in areas that are so inconsequential, like a tailored suit or like an engagement ring? Why not pay for better quality when it comes to something more important, like produce, something that we eat every day and nourish our families with, right? So, do you believe that right now you are buying quality produce? Now, I don't think we are. I don't think in our traditional supermarkets we are paying for quality produce because most of the cost of the produce is coming from transportation costs. So, but what if I told you that you didn't have to pay more for that quality? Now, so today we'll talk a little bit about the Bright Farms business model, which substantially improves produce quality and environmental impact while remaining fiscally competitive, which can bring improved perception of brand value to the grocery store. And this will be in supplement with the traditional produce supply chain. Now, I don't think that Bright Farms can completely replace the current supply chain, as the current supply chain is very well established, as well as allows for the production of produce that is only grown regionally, which the Bright Farms model might not be able to accommodate. But I think that by having this transparent, you see the product from start to finish type of business model right on top of your grocery store, consumers will love it and they'll choose to come to that grocery store because it has intrinsic value to them to see where their produce comes from. So first, let's look a little bit at the supply chain network diagrams of the traditional as well as the Bright Farms model. So first, for the traditional, you see that your supplier is coming from wherever the produce is made. In this case, we'll say Fresno, California. And that supplier is in charge of all of the farming activities. Then the supplier as well is still responsible for the packaging of this. So they put it in the cases and they get it all ready to be shipped out. So as a grocery store, all you have to do is you have to pay the farmer for their produce, and then you transit through refrigerated trucks that produce from Fresno, California to, in this case, let's say, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And then it is taken to the market and put on shelves and then sold to the consumer. Now, the supply chain network for the Bright Farms model, the supplier is now Bright Farms on top of the roof of the grocery store. So then it is packaged there on that roof, and then it is stored for a short amount of time until the food is ripened and ready to be sold, and then it is shelved and put up and made available for consumers to purchase. This takes out a lot of the transit aspect of the supply chain diagram. So some of the competitive advantages for Bright Farms here is, first off, location. It's making the produce local and involving the local community in their own produce. It's quality. It's making produce a craft that people can appreciate the value of. It's cost. It's making transportation costs irrelevant, just very inexpensive. And it's also competitive advantage to the managers and the workers, as now by involving the local community, you're really making that produce family. And brand value. It brings value to the grocery store because consumers want our produce now, because our produce is made in a really cool way that consumers just enjoy being a part of. Now, let's look at this cut and dry, look at the financials. A little technical difficulty here. Let's, okay. Oh, one more. Okay, look at some of the financials. So first, let us look at lettuce. That's a pretty bad pun, I know. So traditionally, it's simple. First, you pay the farmer 33 cents per head. Pay the trucks 14 cents per head. Sell the lettuce $1.28, and you make a profit 81 cents per head. So remember that number, 81 cents. Now, let's look at this from the Bright Farms perspective. So for Bright Farms, the costs can get a little bit more complicated. So let's try to keep this simple. Cut and dry, you got variable costs, 33 cents per head. Fixed costs, 9 cents per head. So if you still chose to sell it at the same selling price of $1.28, you're still making a profit of 86 cents per head. Now, that's 5 cents more per head, which might seem marginal and not that, not like you're gonna make a big business decision based on 5 cents per head of lettuce. But first off, you can charge more than $1.28 because people are willing to pay for that quality, as we saw from earlier examples. And secondly, it adds so much value to your brand that value is not something quantitative, but is really qualitative value gained by the grocery store. So this also changes some things in the way that operations are done. So some operational differences. First off, there's less trucking. The transit is no longer a factor. Number two is now all of the operations of farming are now a part of your business model. So you have to take into account seeding and watering and tilling and herbicides and harvest and the whole shebang. Third, it also will require packaging to be done now, not just by the supplier that you're purchasing from, but now by you as Bright Farms in partnership with the grocery store. Fourth, you also you have to have some kind of storage mechanism for the produce for just a short period of time until it is ripened and ready. And fifth, also we see it changes some of your sources of variability. Now the sources of variability aren't the truck broke down from point A to point B. Now your sources of variability are, well, I don't know how much supply we have, the quantity, because also the yield is in flux. And lastly, it also, the farming transparency can make your grocery store more of an event. So people are now going to the grocery store to see this big thing in motion, and which now you might need to accommodate these customers with maybe more parking or picnic tables to make it a family environment, things like that. And so there's also some material benefits and disadvantages of this Bright Farms model. So some of the good things, it requires 95% less shipping fuel, 90% less land usage, 80% less water, and it provides higher quality produce and adds perceived value to your grocery store. Now some of the disadvantages, first off, construction will be necessary to put in this farm, which no one likes having cranes and forklifts all running about while you're trying to just pick up your sausages at the grocery. Like that doesn't sound good to anyone. Now, next, there's also some installation problems that could occur with water leakage coming from the irrigation system, things like that. And also there's operational considerations for having Bright Farms contracted employees, because if you have a current code of ethics and way that you want your employees to operate at your grocery store, now you are also responsible for these Bright Farms contracted employees, and that can create some issues. So that is a logistic that will need to be worked out. Now we can also have some different considerations for the locations and facilities. So first off, in these considerations, you have to place your farm very close to the grocery store. So place it in a big city and either on top of the supermarket or really close so that you eliminate transportation costs, and that's still a non-factor. Next, we also know that you have to make sure that the roof itself is suitable for your farm. You also have to start determining where liabilities will begin and end between the greenhouse owner and the store. So if there's maintenance and repairs and things that need to take place like that, I mean, whose job is it to fix? And lastly is if the store starts expanding in sales, because I think more and more consumers are going to want this produce, how do you get the extra space as Bright Farms in order to accommodate the extra demand? This also has some considerations to inventory management. Some of those being, first off, now supply is an uncertainty. Because you don't know exactly how much crop yield you're going to get every single time. It also changes in that by people spending more time at your grocery store, they're more likely to start buying other products, so you'll need to reevaluate the way that some of the other inventory demand of your other products as well as the produce. This also will change how your inventory management looks from the model being modeled simply as in cut and dry EOQ to something more akin to an EPQ, as you're now the producer of that supply as well. And lastly, that the greenhouse will serve as only one market rather than a variety. So because it's only supplying one store, there's more variation in the demand because one store is more prone to variation than a large sample size, n equals 30 as compared to n equals 1. There's also some risks in expansion. to Bright Farms. So as they're trying to expand, then they'll need a lot of upfront cash in order to supply more stores, as well as they'll need it's more inefficient growing for Bright Farms because they're not doing huge harvests. It's smaller lot sizes, so it's a little bit more inefficient the way that they're producing it. So then that will need to be accommodated as well. And then lastly is because this is a very transparent operation, then you have to make sure that the quality is closely monitored so that you don't get a bad reputation for having a transparent operation. So in summary, the Bright Farms business model adds a lot of perceived value to the grocery stores by being grown locally, environmentally conscious, and transparent to the consumers as well. But in order to implement this would take a lot of considerations to inventory management, operational processes, and the locations. So finally, I think that Bright Farms could be paired with the traditional produce supply chain, and that would bring a lot of brand value to your grocery store. So here are some references that explain a lot of the financials that we came to, and I'd like to thank you for your time.